Like I said to Tinashe just now, year to date, the Zim Industrial Index down 7.4%, the mining index down over 59%. When the year began, we had such great hope for the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. It was one of the better performing bourses in Africa, and things have gone pear-shaped.
Yes, they have. I think the major issue really has been, the uncertainty from a political, point of view. Because when one looks at some of the companies on our stock exchange, they have now gone past the recovery. They are now trading probably at about 60-70% capacity. We have seen some of the companies now returning back to profitability, even declaring dividends. So I believe at the moment, yes, we still have an issue to do with liquidity. But the companies, certainly, some of them, they have fully recovered. The majority are, however, still struggling because of the liquidity issue. They are finding it very difficult to go back to the shareholders because shareholders haven't got the liquidity.
I'm glad you've mentioned this issue because I'll just give you an example. When we look at what's happening in the retail space, the results that were released by OK, which has done really well, and then also the transaction involving Pick n Pay and TM, it does suggest that in the current environment, equity financing is very, very challenging because debt is so expensive in Zimbabwe. So what sort of companies are looking attractive for those who are prepared to go the extra mile?
Well, the major issue, as I said, is liquidity. We've got to look at external, to raise, the funding. And the major impediment at the moment is the uncertainty created by indigenization. I don't believe there is a big problem with indigenization because it has happened in other countries. Where the problem might lie is the implementation. If we can clear the uncertainty, I'm sure we'll be able to attract more investors because I do believe the stock exchange still has got value.
Yeah, let's talk about that value because what I'd like to know is which are the sorts of companies that would attract investors irrespective of indigenization, irrespective of the political conditions. There's hope for the retailers, it seems.
Yes, the retailers certainly, at the moment, 10 companies, they comprise 67% of our market capitalization. And those are the companies we see a lot of foreigners coming into. Even the trading at the moment is subdued. But when you compare with last year, we have actually surpassed the volume we traded last year. It's because of those 10 companies. That's where the exchange value is at the moment.
What about the tourism stocks? Because when you talk about political uncertainty, it's that political uncertainty that holds travelers back, compounded with some of the financing issues at Air Zimbabwe, for instance. It just means that people probably want to go to Zambia as opposed to Zimbabwe. The bearing it's going to have on some of the companies like African Sun, on Meikles, on RTG, some of those?
Yes, there are still, issues to be resolved. But I do believe Zimbabwe, once we resolve, the political uncertainties, it will certainly take off. I won't be surprised if it will not be one of the first African tigers.
All right. Now, the finance minister is quite optimistic. He sees growth somewhere in the region of 9.3%, maybe 9.4%. Experts say be cautious. Zimbabwe is coming from a low base. It's coming from a history of negative growth, hyperinflation. So we shouldn't get too excited by 9.3% GDP. What's your sense?
My view is people are talking of our economy at a level of about 4-5. I don't believe that figure. I do believe the economy is probably in the range at the moment of about 8 billion. The biggest challenge we have is most of our economy has been formalized. And there is no one who's got data on the performance of that sector. So it really confuses people at the end of the day. I do, to an extent, agree with the minister that the growth he is focusing, I think it's achievable.